A house just appeared on my street out of nowhere that I've never seen before in my life. Excuse my French, but I am so fucking confused. This just happened to me like maybe 5 minutes ago. I knew this probably would fit better here than the Mandela Effect subreddit. Honestly, it made more sense to me to post it here. I was home every day. I notice things very well because I like to look around and observe nature, etc. every single day I walk home. Been living on this same street for 10 years. Today I was walking and noticed a white house between two houses. One was brown that was on the right side of this new house, and one was yellow on the left. I honestly stared at the house for a few seconds trying to remember if I have seen it before. There's a rundown house on our street, so I thought maybe they fixed it up? Nope. That house is like 5 to 6 houses down from this one. I noticed they were painting it, so I tried to remember if there was a house there at all. Nope. I was really freaked out. I've never seen the driveway, the cars, the people, any of it. Never seen this house. I could have sworn that this house wasn't here before. It's so unlikely that I didn't notice this before because I walk home every day. I'm so confused. Nothing else is off on my street, but from the like 4 hours I was gone, I highly doubt someone built a whole house in that time and had time to paint it. It's just impossible. I swear the yellow and brown house were right next to each other. I think I'm losing my mind. I am not on any drugs or intoxicated. I've never done drugs or had alcohol in my life. Anyone had anything similar happen? My reflection was looking away for a brief moment. This is my first time on this subreddit, and I discovered it because I searched Google for something that has been bothering me for a few days. A few days ago after work, I was driving home. I glanced into my rear view mirror to look at myself, and for a brief moment I saw Maya looking ahead, and then saw it turn towards me, almost like the reflection had lagged. I don't drink or smoke, or do any drugs. Could I have been tired? Maybe, but I wasn't tired at the time. I instantly thought about the phenomena where you look at a clock and sometimes the second hand seems to drag on for longer than a second before your brain processes the new image, but seeing my reflection looking away defies physics. Or maybe it doesn't, and my eye and brain beat the speed of light. Anyone who knows about science want to debunk me? I know there must be a logical reason for this. I'm not a person who believes in paranormal stuff and I'm an atheist. But I don't like having a personal experience I can't explain. My school's second floor disappeared. I still have no reasonable explanation for this. I remember my first day of my new school. This was only a couple years ago. I remember exploring the school for the first time. I clearly remember walking up a large flight of stairs to a second floor. I remember there being 2 water fountains to the left and the stairs being next to the bathrooms. I never went there again since it was on the opposite end, and it wasn't there the next year when I checked it out. My friend clearly remembers the same exact thing. They weren't fake memories since we remembered the same thing. However, nobody other than him and maybe a couple other people remembered it. We decided to check it out one day and looked for any sign of a second floor in and around the bathrooms, but there was nothing. Where there were stairs was just a blank wall. I am so confused. What was your WTF paranormal experience? My youngest brother Corey passed away a few years ago. After the funeral, a reception was held in the basement of a local church. There was a small stage area at one end with a backdrop and curtains on the side. I was talking to family and friends at the tables when my wife points out that our 3-year-old son is running around on the stage and maybe he shouldn't be in case he falls off. He's running back and forth in a way that looks like he's being chased. Dodging back and forth, speeding up, abrupt turns, laughing like a loon, hiding behind the curtains then taking off again. I go over and ask him innocently, "What you doing, little man?" and he replies, "Chasing with Uncle Corey." Funking chills. Unexplainable event when I was a child. So when I was about 7 years old, I was getting ready for school and going through my basic routine. The routine I had was get up, get dressed, go downstairs and make a cup of tea, make breakfast, and then when my older brother got downstairs, I'd say good morning to him. This morning was just like usual. It was a sunny day and I was doing my routine but had been a bit slower than usual. I was making breakfast and had heard someone rushing down the stairs and thought my brother was coming down, so I stopped making my breakfast and looked to the hallway door to say good morning, but upon looking, I didn't see my brother. Instead I saw myself, same age as I was. The other me stopped and stared at me without saying anything. The other me looked petrified. We stood there for a few seconds staring at each other and then the other me ran into the bathroom, which was right next to the doorway. I hesitantly walked over to see the bathroom door was shut. I opened it slowly and looked in, but the other me wasn't in there. I looked behind the door but there was no one there. I was so scared I ran upstairs and bumped into my brother and broke down into tears. No one believes me that this happened. Has anyone got any answers? Reddit, tell me your glitch in the Matrix stories. I used to work in music and toured with this band. The guitarist, Josh, of the band's best friend, Matt, had died a couple years back. He always talked about the kid and he seemed like a great guy. Josh always had this reoccurring dream where Matt was standing on this abandoned street which, supposedly, was metaphorical for purgatory. Josh had all these conversations with Matt in these dreams, and because he had overdosed unexpectedly, he felt like his spirit was not able to move on. At the end of the dreams, Matt would take a bulb from the street light on the street they were standing in the middle of. Josh described these dreams in extreme detail and I could pretty much picture what the street looked like. Fast forward to about 6 months into touring with these guys. They were huge Bright Eyes fans and wanted to stop in Cassadaga, Florida. Bright Eyes singer wrote an album there and it's a really creepy, spiritual medium place. It might be worth noting that 6/7 of the people I was with are all atheists. So we drive into Cassadaga around 2 or 3 a.m. and drive around. Suddenly, this big black dog comes in the middle of the road and just stops and looks at us. The guys in this band were weird as fuck and were saying things like follow the dog. It's trying to show us something. And in my mind, I'm just thinking they are all fucking idiots. We follow this dog for a few blocks, as it was walking pretty slowly. All of a sudden, we turn a street and the dog bolts. We try to speed up but Josh says stop the fucking van. This is it. We are all confused and he gets out of the van and looks around. This is it. This is the street in my dreams. We hang out for about 15 minutes and from the way he described the street, from having houses on the left to a park on the right, it was definitely the street. As we get in the van, a street light goes off and we just drive off. He claims he never had any more dreams about it, as that was closure on everything. What is the creepiest glitch in the Matrix you've experienced? When I was a teenager I had 2 really intense dreams one night. The first one was about an online friend of mine calling me to say she'd broken up with her boyfriend, and I sang a few lines of Seal's Don't Cry to her over the phone. The second dream was finding a real-life friend dead body floating in her bathtub. I didn't think anything of it up until I logged online that evening and the online friend came online to tell me her boyfriend broke up with her. I immediately asked if I could call her, and she said no. I remember thinking that it meant something, like I could change it. Not long after, my phone rang, and it was real-life friend from the dream calling me. I was completely freaked at this point, but talked to her normally. She was just talking about school and shit. Up until I realized I heard a splash in the background. I asked her, "Are you in the tub?" And when she said yes I felt like my heart had stopped. I asked her, "What did you do?" She didn't answer me right away, and then after a very long pause she told me she'd taken an entire bottle of pills and chased it with mushrooms and vodka. She'd gotten scared waiting for it to hit her. So she called me so she'd hear someone's voice. I hung up and called 911. By the time they got there she was unconscious, but alive. Today she's a mom to a beautiful little girl, and she's okay. Reddit, what are your glitch in the Matrix stories? Throwaway account cause this is really personal. My last semester at a certain college I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. Note he was 325 pounds, I was 120 pounds. While unconscious on the ground I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady, she made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years we got married and almost immediately she bore me a daughter. I had a great job and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2 my wife, bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day while sitting on the couch I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like inverted. It was still in 3D but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim on 4 legs and a white square shade. I was transfixed, I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning I didn't go to work, something was just not right about that lamp. I stopped eating, I left the couch only to use the bathroom at first, soon I stopped that too as I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at the fucking lamp for 3 days before my wife got really worried. She had someone come and try to talk to me. By this time my cognizance was breaking up and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house just before I had my epiphany. The lamp is not real. The house is not real, my wife, my kids. None of that is real. The last 10 years of my life are not fucking real. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper, it was still inverted dimensions, it took up my entire perspective and all I could see was red. I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises and I became aware of pain. A fucking shit ton of pain. The first words I said were I'm missing teeth and opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk surrounded by people that I didn't know, lots were freaking out, I was completely confused. At some point a cop scooped me up, walked me across the sidewalk and grass and threw me face down in the back of a cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop, seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive, and give CT scans and shit. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression, I was grieving the loss of my wife and children and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane as I would cry myself to sleep hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have, but sometimes I see my son, usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old and I can never hear what he says.
Thank you for watching. Which story did you like best? Give feedback in the comments. Subscribe to not miss new stories.